Okay, good morning, everyone. Really happy to see each one of you on this day after St. Patrick's Day. Just seeing if you're actually listening. Yeah, it's not St. Patrick's Day. That was St. Valentine's Day. Okay, I just wanted to see if you were, be aware of it. Jane was. She laughed. Okay, but I want to talk about Valentine's Day in a sense. I want to talk about the word love and how we view it in unity, how we view it in Christianity, how we view it spiritually all over the world, and how we view it also psychologically. There was a guy who was a studiist. He studied and had a system called humanistic behavior, and his name was Carl Rogers. And in the 50s, he developed a different way of looking at the way that therapists would view their patients and how they would be in touch with them. Always before it had been done the Carl Jungian way with symbolism of what they were saying, and which sort of separated the individual that they were from themselves and just viewed it as the symbolized message that was going on through what they had to say. And sometimes the symbols were good, and sometimes they were harsh, and so it was. And it sort of separated, excuse me, it separated the therapist from the person that was in therapy. Then there was the Freudian approach, and in the Freudian approach, as we know, that was all done also through a type of symbolism, but everything was related to how the person was in the center of their being, and then what these therapists could do to change them and get them to see things in a different light, or point out to them what it was in their thinking and their behavior that was holding them back. And there were different approaches too. There's the Skinner approach, the behaviorist approach. And that dealt with sort of saying, oh, you're doing it this way? Well, stop it. Stop doing it that way and do it this way. What's the matter with you? Sort of attitude. I think it's been used in some funny bits that I've seen where it's like, doctor, I'm doing this, and I just and then the doctor would just say, well, stop it. And that's behaviorist. That's the joke on behaviorist therapy. His therapy was a little bit different than this humanistic approach. It approached the person, first of all, as we can see, as a human and something and worth giving them a approach where the behaviorist idea fell aside, and whatever the person was saying or thinking and expressing was viewed with what we would call love. But he didn't call it that. He used, of course, a very scientific approach to that name, and he called it unconditional positive regard. Now, can't you imagine holding somebody in your arms, kissing them deeply, looking into their eyes and say, darling, I unconditionally, positively regard you. It just would be quite the same instead of saying I love you, but oftentimes we get confused as to what we think love is. Let's take his approach for a moment and carry it through, and then let's look at the way that we approach love many times in our lives, and the way Christianity approaches it, and the way that many different religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs approach it. In the way that he's approaching it, he approaches it through here's the three key takeaways from his approach. He had a 19-point system, and I'm not going to go into all that. That's not good for a talk. I heard a guy give a 17-point talk one time, and I drifted off about 3. It was off into my own little world. But he only had 3. Subjective experience. Reality is perceived subjectively. Each person's unique experience of the world shapes their behavior more than objective reality. And isn't that so true? Isn't it true that because we are unique beings, we have a unique subjective view of reality? It's our very own. It goes to the great phrase in a book I read one time about and it was a science fiction book, but it had in there a person who was always supposed to tell the truth. So if you ask him the question, "What is the color of that house over there?" he would say, or she would say, "The side of the house that I can see is white." He did not go further than that and observe something and assume that the rest of the house was white. He only told the subjective truth that he saw. Well, this is the way most of us are. We have a subjective truth that we see. In that truth, we may be delighted. In that truth, we may be really not delighted in it. And we may see it in a way that really gives us fear or worry, or it presents to us a reality that is not fully represented, but it is to us. It is to each one of us. The second takeaway is the actualizing tendency. Every individual has an inherent tendency to grow and develop and fulfill their potential when the right conditions are present. Now, this is a tough one to swallow. At least it is for me. And the reason it is because if you have a tendency, and he means by this inherent, he means that this is just built into each one of us. An inherent tendency to grow, develop, and fulfill their potential when the right conditions are present, then that means that we are stuck in waiting for those conditions to become present. I'm not so sure that's a great way to go through life. That's a when and if, then approach. When this happens, then I can do this. If this happens, then I'll be able to be, and that kind of puts the be do have in a backwards order. I'm not so sure that I would want to believe and hang my star on that sort of hope that when this finally happens and aligns itself, then I will be able to. I would not want that approach in my life. And then the third one after this actualizing tendency approach is this unconditional positive regard. People thrive when they receive acceptance, love, and respect without conditions. Boy, is that a tough one. That is a very tough one. I had one of my own children send me a message and say, "Dad, when you start loving me unconditionally, then we can have a relationship that is fulfilled." And I just wrote back to her and said, "Sweetheart, that's been my intention for a long time, but it's just a really hard thing to achieve in a father-child relationship. It can be done maybe in a therapy relationship where I'm not attached in this degree of saying, these are the things I want you to achieve. Now do it." Instead, which we often do with our children, but rather in the therapist situation, you are listening, always listening, and always encouraging. Now, we may try to do that with people in our environment all around us, whether we are in that therapist situation or not, or if we put ourselves in that therapist situation, it is still extremely difficult for us to achieve that. Why? Because we are humans too. It's hard for us to step out of our humanity and be simply a therapist or be simply a sounding board for somebody else and constantly encourage them with no conditions attached. Now, other therapies do have conditions attached, and that's why his was so remarkable. He was able to help people achieve their goals because he helped them to realize, maybe only unconsciously or subconsciously, that nobody was going to do it for them. They were going to have to do this for themselves. And to do this, they were going to have to accept certain things about themselves that the therapist could encourage but could not direct or dictate. The same thing applies to members of our family or members of our community, and whatever that community may be, like in us, in the unity movement, for instance. We can hear one another and we can listen closely and we can affirm things for other people, but we cannot achieve them for them. We can only be more loving, more open, and more acceptable. Achieve that for them, that unconditional acceptability. Or as he puts it, unconditional positive regard. I just love that statement, unconditional positive regard. I should have written a song about that. Okay, let's look at that now let's look at love now from a point of view that most of us are more familiar with. Let's look first of all in the way that Jesus loved other people. I'm looking at it from Jesus' point of view because I think most of us are familiar with that from what we read in Scripture and other places. Jesus tried to show people this unconditional love, and he tried to provide an example for them of how this can be achieved and how and why it is so important. You know, on the Sermon on the Mount, he goes to great way to say to each person that is there, does not the Scripture say you are gods? You are gods. So act like it. Achieve that which is really the reality of who you are. He goes on to say, as we heard today in the Daily Word, that it's not only possible to do this, but it is very important and profound to have this ability to share and experience divine love. It's a very important thing. Now, what is different between human love and divine love? In human love, we do have expectations of outcomes. We say, and oftentimes we use the phrase, I love you, too easily. We just say it. We just whip it off and just say, I love you to different people. And it has very little meaning in it. We're just experiencing the words there, and it makes us smile and have sort of a temporarily warm feeling. And it's like, oh, good, thank you very much for that. For what? What did we just do? Nothing. Maybe just listening to somebody. Maybe that's helpful. Maybe just expressing our view of, well, this is the way it happened for me, and maybe this will be helpful for you to hear it. We may do that, and that is expressing, as far as we know, our ability, our human ability to express love. Simply listening and having an unconditional regard for all that is quite difficult many times. Many times we are saying, I love you, and we're doing it with our eyes rolling. because we just, I love you, but and when we have that but in there, we just experience that. We don't get to do it in a deep, unconditional way. God's love, as it has been defined through different scriptures and different spiritual ways of looking at things, a God love or a divine love is one in which we ourselves have done nothing to get it, to experience it, to own it, to have it in our lives. It is unbidden. It's just there, waiting for us to accept it. We don't have to do anything special. We don't have to be anybody special. Any of that has to occur. The love is just constant. I heard an old Baptist minister one time expressing this when he was reading from Romans, and he said, God looks at something and you go into prayer and you say, God, I have sinned, or God, I have made a mistake. And God will say to you in return, what are you talking about? I didn't see that. I didn't experience that. Because in a godly way, none of that being reality can be experienced or even acknowledged. None of it. It's unbidden positive regard for each and every one of us. And we have a word for that unbidden. You didn't deserve it. You didn't have to do anything to deserve this love. It's just there, and we call it grace. My grace be unto you. Oh, you didn't have to do anything special. You didn't have to earn it. You didn't have to do anything. It's just there for you. It is a positive regard for you. Unconditionally. Unconditional positive regard. Wow. Spoken from a psychologist and directed by God through his words. That's what we search for. That's what we wish for ourselves and for everyone else. We say this every week here, and we stand for peace, and we stand for love, and we acknowledge all the different ways. We affirm peace. We affirm love in all these different ways. Not just as a whimsical little piece of 3 words that we just let come out of our mouths, but something that is attached to deeper who we truly are in the core of our being, the core, the center, the heart of who we truly are. It's not often that we do that. We may do it and really mean it with our loved ones around us. We may do it and really mean it with our significant other, our person that we love. But it actually means more if we temper it, if we hold it back and not just allow it to come flipping out of our mouth. If we hold it, and then the other person knows that when we say it, we mean it. We've thought about it. We've taken it within us. We have felt it emotionally, and now we express it outwardly. Darling, I hold for you positive, unconditional regard. Wow, they say. Thank you so much, because I hold for you the same unconditional, positive regard. I say it sort of jokingly, but if I turn that back into what we usually say, it means exactly the same thing. My darling, my loved one, I love you. Let us say that to our entire world. Let us say it now. Let it be that which we express unconditionally, so that we can say it to those who we express and hold sometimes as our enemy. That's what Jesus was trying to teach us. You have been taught, hate your enemies. And I tell you, love them. Turn the other cheek. Turn away when you are slapped. And just turn the other one and say, this is available too. Because there is an unconditional response within me. Unconditional. No conditions must be met before I feel true love to you and for you. If that occurs in the entire world, then there are no enemies, and we all will lay down our guns, and we will no longer have that fear, and no longer have that greed, and no longer have that desire to own and possess. It will simply be. Ah, what a joke. What a joke, so many people say. There's no way that's ever going to happen in life. Well, maybe not today, and maybe not yesterday, but there will come a time when all swords will be beaten into plowshares, when everything will be as we see it deep within ourselves, fully expressed, unconditionally. No conditions must be met. Positive, no negatives held within. And regard, loving, expressing, understanding. God bless. Have a great weekend.